Hey everyone. This is today is I've just actually convened today's class due to people not joining because I think vacation started a day early for everyone, and that's okay. So we're going to augment your time that you're going to have away from Eastern. Just with a couple of videos, I thought of the word knowledge pocket, but maybe a knowledge nugget might be a little bit better. I don't know, pocket, nugget, whatever. Nugget, like chicken McNuggets, I guess. Anyways, today we are going to be talking about trunking, virtual trunking protocol, VTP. VTP, that's what you should know that. Now, VTP, virtual trunking protocol, should actually be called virtual replication protocol. And this is what it really is. You have, for example, here we have switch one. We'll just call this switch one, and we'll create switch two. Now, beyond them just existing physically next to each other, they really have nothing to do with each other. But once you interlink them, then all of a sudden you come into the possibility of them relating to each other, possibly, exchanging information. So, what information will they be exchanging? Well, in this particular case with VTP, we're going to say they can exchange VLAN info. Now, first off, the VLAN info for any switch or router for that matter, because remember, a router can switch. Not all switches can route, but the switch basically is divided itself in terms of the information that it has with basically a separate VLAN database. Okay, and then like everything else, everything all we'll just say all else. So when you go ahead and you erase everything else, like right here, you erase it and start from scratch. The VLAN is separate. So let's take a look. My favorite phrase in the world. Let's take a look. Sorry, I use the same phrases all the time. Let's take a look. Well, let's look at this switch. And we have command line interface right here. So right now this is a brand new switch. We'll go into enable, and then we'll do show running configuration. And right now we have the base iOS information right here, and we've actually made no changes. Now if we do a show startup configuration, show startup config, there's nothing in there. So let's change that configure, and let's just do host name. Let's do host name host. I know, real imaginative, right? And let's do show run, and we can see that we have host name host, and let's do show start, and not present. Okay. Now let's do copy run start. So this takes the running configuration, copies it into the startup configuration, enter, and let's do show startup configuration, and we have host name host. Okay. Let's do show VLAN brief, and everything's in the first VLAN because VLAN 1 is the native VLAN. So let's create a VLAN. Just create any old VLAN, VLAN 2, and go to end. And if we do show startup, and we can see that there's no notion of any extra VLANs. Okay, so let's do copy, run start, go to host and then show startup. Okay, host name is host, and nothing that says VLANs, but if we did show VLAN brief, we can see our VLAN. Now, let's go ahead and if we do, let's do again in the show startup configuration. We can see host name is host. So let's do write, and again, just to review, show VLAN brief. We can see VLAN 2. So if I do reload, okay, do reload, show, and because I did reload, if we do, let's see, show running configuration, we see that host name is still host. And let's do show VLAN. Oops, I forgot. I should have done show VLAN brief. We can see that VLAN 2 is still in there. Let's do a write erase. Complete. And let's do a reload. Okay, so we did write erase, which erases the startup configuration. So now we should, and now I'm reloading, and we're back to switch. So show startup, not present. Let's do show VLAN brief. Wait, what? VLAN 2 is still there? I thought I did a write erase, which erases startup config, but VLAN is still there. That's because the iOS is essentially bifurcated or separated, fancy word for separated, between the VLAN database and everything else. So when we do write erase, it destroys the everything else, but it still leaves the VLAN database intact. So to change it, to do that, if we want to just, also erase our VLAN database, here we say delete flash VLAN.dat. We can do delete or just del. And then we just press enter and then confirm. Okay, let's reload again. Reload, it basically resets the switch. The reason why we need reload to reset the switch, even if we go to physical, I don't think there's an on-off with the switch. But there's no on-off button. So we need to know reload. Enable, show VLAN brief, and we have reset our VLANs. Now looking back here, VTP which is what we're actually talking about, exchanges or forwards copies of VLANs created from the server. Okay, so actually another name for this should be virtual replication protocol. Now, one thing, details are present here. It only occurs over trunks. And there are 3 VTP modes: server, client, and transparent. So let's just copy and paste these 3 and just reconsider them down here. Let's focus on it down here. The VTP modes. What was that? What was that noise? Oh, are you still here? Stay on the call. Oh, I started a Google Meet session simply because it allows you to see me too when I have the camera pointed this way. So I'm kind of cheating the system. This way I don't have to do a little movie introducing myself and then have to integrate the movie with the Microsoft Word desktop things, and then and this is all in one. So, anyways, so there are three modes that VTP has. VTP modes. Client, server, transparent. Only two of these three actually have anything to do with VTP. Let's see, what am I talking about? Well, first off, let me just make this into. First off, transparent. If you put your VTP mode in transparent mode, you're not even like participating in VTP. So in other words, if you have two switches and the server switch is going to copy and replace its VLAN database to this one, the client. So that's how it usually works. The server uh, sends over. When I say exchanges, it's a one-way exchange. So it's almost like the server is ordering the client to do something. But there's a cost to the client, because if the client has VLAN 4 and 5 and the server only has VLAN 2, because the server determines the latest revision, if this switch decides to participate in VTP by being a client, okay, the server will send its version of its database to the client, and guess what happens to poor old VLAN 4 and 5? Guess what happens? It's destroyed and replaced with VLAN 2, because that is the latest VTP database. Okay? This right here. Oh, right here. This is the VLAN database, which is separate from the overall iOS. So the database has a certain revision to it. Okay? And all switches that are clients connected to the server over a trunk, okay, needs to have the latest revision. So it's always going to be accepting for the latest revision. Okay? So if the revision is 1, it's looking for something greater than 1, 2, which is number 2. 2 is greater than 1. So the server here will exchange or overlay its VTP database, which only had VLAN 2, did not include 4 and 5. Then it will erase 4 and 5 and just leave client with 2. Well, here's a problem. Here is a huge problem. So we'll call this switch. We'll call this switch to. We'll call this B for beta, and we'll call this switch A for alpha. That's switch A for alpha. That's switch B for beta. So what would happen if you had a certain topology, okay, in which you had the beta switch right here, and it has VLAN 4, and VLAN 4 has a connection to really important stuff here like databases. And then for VLAN 5, it's connected to a public Wi-Fi PC connection. So maybe this is an attorney's office, and the public Wi-Fi is like actual lawyers, or maybe it's a waiting room, or something like that, or maybe we'll just say it's lawyers, and it is somehow connected to a master switch, and that's the alpha, and it's a server. It's in VTP server mode, and this is VTP client mode. And computer A, its VTP database just has VLAN 2. Okay? And what will happen is through virtual trunking protocol, it's going to send this VTP database to the client, And it's now going to delete VLAN 4 and VLAN 5, delete, and suddenly all these devices can no longer talk to the network. So if you were a stakeholder at all, if you're a worker at the attorney's office, you no longer have access to this important stuff because your VLAN that your database learned to get to this interface is now deleted. Okay, so these interfaces now cannot do anything. They're done. Now your database just has this VLAN 2, and that means nothing to this switch. Okay, and very quickly, so you know what the heck I'm talking about, let's do a demonstration. Okay, now let's get this. Let's just delete that switch completely, and let's start from new. Let's drag another switch. Now we can wait. We can have fun by waiting for this to load up. Okay, we could do enable, show VLAN brief, and there's no VLANs here. Now let's do show VTP status. You know, our very first command. And really, there is, I don't even see, okay, show VLAN show VTP status. And we can see that the device ID is the MAC address. Number of existing VLANs, that's right here. And we can see that configuration revision is 0. So let's create some VLANs right here. We can do configuration terminal, and then let's create VLAN 5. We can say name management. Let's do VLAN 6 and name guest services. End. And let's go ahead and do a show VLAN brief. And we can see that management and guest services have been completed. Now let's grab another switch, and again, let's just put. We'll say this is this is the VTP server, and the domain is we'll call it Black Friday, since Black Friday is coming up. And password is password. Well, let's just say password is also Black Friday. Okay? Now, this is VTP, we'll call this client. Okay? And let's go to this switch right here. Enable, show VLAN brief. We can see that there are no VLANs here. Let's do, let's create a VLAN. We'll call it VLAN 8. Name, really important stuff. End, show VLAN brief. Here is VLAN, really important stuff. Okay, now let's go ahead and connect these, Fast Ethernet 01 to Fast Ethernet 01. So what do we know about virtual trunking protocol? First of all, we know it's very, 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 very dangerous. That's the one thing. So that's one thing. That's the first thing. Very dangerous. Okay, so what is so dangerous about simply forwarding copies of the VLANs? Okay, what is so dangerous about that? Well, let's take a look. Let's see. We did a show VLAN brief, and we have VLAN 8, really important stuff. Now the first, and so what is the first thing? It occurs over trunk. So in order for us to demonstrate it, we're going to have to put FA01 on both switches into trunk mode. So if we say show switch port, show status, no, show trunk. Here, let me just see. Show VTP, I should say. So before we do that, let's go ahead and just put these interfaces in trunk mode. So conf T interface F0/1, okay? And let's put them in trunk mode. Switch port mode trunk, okay? And we can actually do show VTP, and we can do status, and we can see we can actually verify that there is actually a trunk. Show VTP status. Let's see, device ID, VTP version 1, VTP version running 1. Okay. Okay, anyways, VTP operating mode is server. So let's take a look at this. And we need to put this into trunk mode, FA01, so comp T, and interface F0/1, switch port mode trunk. Okay. Show. And let me just show, let's see, show VLAN. And then we can say, well, brief. Okay, show VLAN brief. Now we did that trunk, so let's do show VTP status. Okay, and we have two of them in server mode. So the way this works is that the three of them here, where do I have that? The three modes is, in order for it to work, literally one has to be server and the other one has to be client. It won't work if either one of them is, especially if this one is in transparent, but it also won't work if you have server to server. The only way it works is if you have server to client. So let's go ahead and put this one in client mode. So configure terminal, VTP, and then we could do mode. And the three modes available are client, server, and transparent. So we're going to, and the best thing to do is initially put it in transparent and then client. And actually we won't do that quite yet. Let's go ahead and set the domain and the password. So comp T and VTP, and then we could set the domain. And what do we say? It was going to be Black Friday. And password, VTP password, is going to be also Black Friday. Okay. This one here, again, let's do VTP domain, Black Friday, VTP password, Black Friday. Okay? All right. Now, what we have to do in order to get these to exchange, one has to be server. Like I said, one has to be server. The other one has to be client, like I do right here. So let's turn this into client. And again, show VLAN brief. We keep in mind that our really important stuff is there. So let's do comp T, VTP client. VTP mode, client, Setting device to VTP client mode. All right. And let's do show VLAN brief again. Oh my God, look at that. Management and guest services. What happened to VLAN 8? There is no VLAN 8. In this case, VLAN 8 was literally destroyed by VTP. And I'm being serious. I'm being serious. So wait a second. What happened here? What happened to our, like, so what happens to all the connections to this really important stuff? It gets destroyed. It does not, it's no longer reachable. It's no longer accessible. So VLAN just 8 was essentially destroyed by VTP, Virtual Trunking Protocol, Virtual Replication Protocol. It literally went from here to here without us doing anything. It's like automation. Okay? So how can we prevent this?